Ja Morant is one of the NBA's brightest young stars. He's been a headache for opposing defenses due to his extraordinary athletic ability and shifty handles. But unfortunately for Morant and the Grizzlies, the superstar's talent has been overshadowed by his decisions off the court. Ja Morant was recently suspended for 25 games by the NBA after he made the head-shaking decision to go on Instagram Live at 5 a.m. from a strip club and put a piece to his head. These unadvised decisions by Ja Morant have caused a lot of media disturbance, and rightfully so. It also raised some concerns about his future, as some of these ex-NBA players have gone public to share their opinions on the Grizzlies' point guard. Let's hear what they have to say. Even after finishing his playing career, Redick has still remained around the NBA, as he's now an NBA analyst and has his own podcast called The Old Man and the Three. JJ appeared on ESPN's First Take before Ja was officially suspended, and speculation swirled that he would receive a half-a-season suspension for his acts. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said he was shocked by the video. JJ wasn't one of those that jumped straight to attacking Ja Morant for his behavior, yet he called out the politicians who shamelessly flaunt their guns. As far as we know, all of these things have been investigated and no law's been broken. I'm not condoning the behavior. I'm not saying there should be no punishment. There should be consequences. You're the face of the league. You're representing the NBA. You're a role model to young kids, all of that. I don't think half a season is the right answer. You talk about consequences? Look, in our country right now, gun culture is pervasive. It's pervasive. We've got mass shooting after mass shooting and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. So I get why we're so sensitive to this right now. But there's no consequence for Greg Abbott telling his constituents that they should go buy more guns, and then we have mass shooting after mass shooting in Texas. There's no consequence for an elected Tennessee official to send out a Christmas card holding AR-15s with his young family, and then there's a shooting in his very district. There's no consequences to that. JJ got real emotional as he continued sharing his thoughts, slamming the table after each word. In his opinion, Ja is to blame and deserves to be suspended, but he still didn't break the law, and is getting a hammer laid down on him. "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future," is a popular quote from Dan Pena that highlights the significance of self-awareness and self-reaction, which can help us a lot in improving our lives, or destroying them for that matter. Pacers legend Reggie Miller had this approach when he commented on Ja's recent situation. "I want you to look at your inner circle, and I want you to write a list down of all your boys, all your homies, and I want you to look at them, and I want you to burn it up right now. You've got a clean house, young man. The people who he surrounded himself with, and some of this could be family involved as well, you've got to look at the whole picture, my friend, and what you have and what you can achieve, and what's being taken away from you. Which life do you want to live? There are cautionary tales all throughout this league. I can give you a handful of guys that I've played with, and ones you've seen on other teams that have gone down this route. Where are they today?" Ja Morant, before all of this, was being painted as one of the faces of the new league, and now he's being vilified for his own doing. This is not us catching him doing something. This is him doing it on his own phone. Miller later added that Ja is lucky that the late David Stern, who was a notorious disciplinarian, is no longer the NBA commissioner. Oh my, he's lucky David Stern isn't a hold of this. He's so lucky David Stern is not at the helm of this. He would have been given the Ron Artest treatment. He would have been gone. When Kevin Garnett was still in high school, his basketball career was very nearly derailed by off-court drama the Big Ticket had little to do with. A fight he wasn't even involved in forced a young Garnett into court to defend himself against serious charges. So if somebody knows the importance of keeping yourself out of trouble, especially once you become a public figure, it's KG himself. On an episode of the Showtime Basketball KG Certified podcast, KG and former Celtics teammate Tony Allen discussed the Ja Morant situation, talking about that dynamic and what Ja needs to do to avoid derailing a promising NBA career. The two retired NBA veterans shared how they can be resources for the 23-year-old Ja, who's still young and has a lot of potential to grow, but needs to be on the right path to do so. "I'm wishing young fella all the best, man. Ja, if you need us, man, reach out. Have someone from your camp. It ain't nothing. We all in this, bro. So I wish you and your family well," said Kevin Garnett, who obviously was very touched by the situation. Ex-Grizzlies guard Tony Allen publicly offered his help and guidance to the current Memphis point guard. "I reach out to his dad every day, I ain't gonna lie. I tell him, hey man, I'm in y'all corner, I'm around. I'm here if you need me. Call me." The two have a lot of experience and can definitely be of help when it comes to leading the young NBA players to the right path in their careers. Despite being a very talented player, Stephen Jackson is probably most known for being one of the participants in the famous Malice at the Palace. Jackson was involved in the brawl and even fought with some of the fans in the stands. In the aftermath, Jackson was suspended for 30 games without pay, thereby losing $1.7 million in salary. So it's safe to say that Steven Jackson knows how bad it feels to get suspended due to your dumb non-basketball decisions. When Ja Morant served his first 8-game ban because he held a firearm on his Instagram Live, Jackson defended the Grizzlies' point guard. But even he thinks that repeating the same mistake twice was a moron move, as Jackson ripped apart Ja, who disappointed him big time. I was one guy that actually went to bat for him because I've been a guy who has thrown a lot of money at a young age and made a mistake. All the people like me that was taking up for him said it was a mistake. He's a young kid. We can't go to bat for him this time. This was the dumbest thing he could have done. This is a moron move. His parents should be embarrassed. His friends around him, like we said from the last incident, wasn't his friends. It's just a f***ed up situation. But you gotta really just put everything in his lap and let him deal with it. He got to deal with everything that comes with it because he done the same dumb thing again that he act like he went and got help. You can find a lot of joking around when you're watching the Inside the NBA crew, but when it comes to a situation as serious as Ja Morant's, even the biggest jokesters couldn't make fun of it. Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley are both really concerned about Ja's current state. An untypically serious Shaq used this platform on TNT to call out Ja in a measured and fair way, but also explain the consequences of his behavior. It was a bad choice, a bad decision. We have to stop putting ourselves in positions where they can take away what we've worked so hard to get to. You should always believe in a higher power. I've always had the ability to stop time and say, if I do this, what's gonna be the outcome? There's no excuse for what he did. Remember, he pressed the button on his phone. He went live. You don't go live, nobody knows he has the weapon, we're not talking about this. But he did that. Why are you in the strip club with no shirt? Why are you walking around with a weapon? And why'd you hit the live button? So we have to stop putting ourselves in positions where they can take away the things that we work hard to get. I'm not gonna jump on the kid. He knows what he did's wrong. But remember, he put himself in that position. You're not a rapper, you're an NBA player. I don't know where you're from, I don't know who's hanging out with you, but that doesn't matter. When it's you making the decision, you gotta be smart. And we gotta stop putting ourselves in positions where they can take it back. On the other hand, Charles Barkley was much more frustrated than Shaq, slamming those who defended Ja's actions. One of those people being Celtics legend Paul Pierce. We got some idiots, some fools, some jackasses on television that really just pisses me off, talking about Ja should make a stand by saying he didn't break any laws, he didn't do anything wrong. Those guys are just freaking idiots. When you're making $100 million a year to play sports, your life changes. There are certain rules and regulations that you have to live by. You can't do stupid stuff. That's the trade-off. Gilbert Arenas was a star back in his day whose career unfortunately took a turn due to injuries. But what drew the final straw for Arenas was an incident that involved himself and then teammate Javaris Crittenden. In the 2009-10 season, Arenas brought unloaded firearms to the Wizards' locker room and dared Crittenden to shoot him. While nobody got hurt in the incident, the fact that firearms were brought to the locker room is scary. This incident ultimately destroyed Arenas' NBA career, so if somebody knows the consequences from such actions, it's Agent Zero. Even though it's not going to be taken because he's 23 on top of the world, the advice is to understand your surroundings. Put people around you who have the same interests, and that interest is protecting your brand. Even if it's not your interest, make it theirs. So you need people around you that's willing to tell you, hey, you've taken too many shots. It's 1 o'clock in the club, we have to leave. You need people around you that's willing to be your conscience because obviously at that age, being realistic, 23, all the money in the world in your mind is godlike. So with that being said, you need people around you that can think like a real human and that's going to protect you until you're old enough to really start thinking. In an episode of the I Am Athlete podcast, Agent Zero again mentioned Ja's controversies. He compared his off-court antics to Jordan's, who would definitely not be as great of a role model if he was to play today. When we're talking about Ja Morant and the silly shit he's doing, and that's tarnishing his legacy, you take MJ's personality, the gambling, all that, no. In an era where information travels so fast, you need to be very careful with what you do off the court. When you're a young, promising, and rich NBA superstar, you should be aware that all eyes will be on you. Much like what happened with Jordan and his gambling addiction, Morant's time will also be in the back of the mind of the fans in some time. With all the noise created by Morant, it will soon subside just as Jordan's gambling addiction slowly faded away. Morant can do the same for himself by focusing on his career by staying away from the controversial antics off the court. Let's hope that Ja starts taking things more seriously.